Yeah. So, like Anifa or someone like yesterday, you asked for a like doubt on the payment, right? So I did reach out to them, and they did told that okay, you just need to reach out to the like group admins. Okay. So even I'm not sure what is wrong with that, but yeah, you just reach out to that group admins. Okay. So let me share my screen. So today's session will be seeing what is booting procedure and what is the use of it, right? So yeah, and yeah, so this also will be seeing how to create an instance in your GCP as well as your AWS. Okay, so I hope at least can anyone put in the chat okay, let me see whether chat is okay. Yeah, sorry, chat is not. Just now I enabled it. Can anyone type in the chat so that I will check? Perfect. Yeah. Thanks, Venkat. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Good morning. Okay. It is evening here, but fine. Good morning, Isidore. Okay. So, yeah. So, at least can you put in the chat? Did anyone downloaded the ISO and this one VMware? So, yeah, please put in the chat if anyone downloaded it. So I hope you had a stable connection because yeah, if it is interrupted from the first again, it will be downloading. Why? Because it is a UDP download. So and it is a huge file. So that is the reason. And as I told yesterday, torrent file also you can use to download the. So here you can resume that download. Okay, so you can do that. And yeah, so there is an instruction for how to install the VMware. So if you're stuck, having some issue, can't do. Okay. No problem, Anifa. So you can. So your laptop is having issue or it is not capable enough. I'll be showing you how to install or initiate a like EC2 instance as well as uh, like the cloud instance in your GCP. So you can use that either one. So like it doesn't matter, but at least one running operating system should be there. It doesn't matter about the platform. It can be in either way, but it should be usable because since it is a like yeah, of course you can do Anifa. So so for the people who are using your corporate laptop, right? Almost any companies do very few companies if it is a banking sector, they do block the cloud connection. So you just check whether you are able to access this one. So yeah, so the link is console.google.com. So just a sec, let me open this. Yeah, uh, console, sorry, cloud.google.com. So this is for the GCP. So please do check this one. And for AWS, it is yeah, aws.amazon.com. So you can try that. Okay. So if it is blocked, so no other choice. You need to use your own personal laptop. If it is not, I hope most of the companies do allow that. So yeah, okay. So yeah, Munir Basha. So I'll be showing you how to configure the kitty as well. Um, yeah, okay. Uh, can everyone see the screen? I guess it is issue with your end, Ashraf. So please do drop and join once again so that yeah. Okay. So these two are the even Azure we can use, but Azure is even though it is giving $100 for free for students, and yeah, it is having only 30 days trial, which is not sufficient for our session, as well as it is not worth it, I would say. So it is better to go with GCP, which is offering $300 credit, which is roughly around 28,000 or something. And your AWS is offering free tier for 1 year, 1 year free tier. Okay. So yeah, again, it is very minimal AWS actually. So in your GCP, it is a good thing. Okay. Again, for GCP, the very best thing is I hope obviously everyone would have a Gmail ID, right? So simply you can log in with your Gmail ID and you can start, like, you just need to link your credit card and debit. So that one we'll see later. So the first thing we'll be seeing what is the like we'll go into the syllabus part. Okay. Uh, okay. Let me. Okay. Sorry, I'm not sharing the whole screen. So I guess now you can see my notes as well, right? Yeah, I guess now, yeah, perfect. So yeah, now we'll be seeing the booting procedure and why as a sysadmin you must know this one, right? So as I told yesterday, so uh, like let's say if it is stuck in this kernel, right? So kernel, or let's say it is stuck in grub. So you should be in a position enough to understand, okay, what went wrong, and you need to diagnose it, and you need to provide the RCA, as I told, right? So why it did went wrong at the first place, right? So that is what people used to call it as postmortem report. So after the issue is done and everyone is settled, at that time only we need to give a justification as a sysadmin team, or let's say obviously right away you won't do that. Your team leads or someone would be doing that, and they will be the one responsible for, okay, why there was a downtime at a production hub. And yeah, so that is the thing. So that is the reason you must understand what is happening after you pressing the power button. All right. So the very first thing is, okay, let me open Paint and explain that. Right. So the very first thing after clicking the power button, power on or off. Okay. So after clicking that, the very first thing it will happen is post. Okay. So what is post? Post is nothing but power on self-test. So I would go a bit off topic, but that is for a reason. Okay, so let me just quickly explain how a motherboard works quickly. Okay, so that you can easily understand how it all comes together. Okay, so let me take some random motherboard. So why I took MSI? Because I am a MSI user, and it is a good manufacturer. Okay, so there is a lot of manufacturer in the first place, and it depends on your uh, like laptop. If you are using your laptop vendor, who they are relying on, right? So yeah, so in my case, I am using my personal computer, and this is the MSI motherboard which I am using, not the same version, a different one. But yeah, so the very first thing is you are having a lot of components here, right? So all the hardware you see here must get the required power to it. So you'll be connecting your PSU, power supply unit, and the very first thing you, once you click the power button, right? So yeah, so this is the power supply unit for your for the whole motherboard. This will be the one, as well as this 24 pin one. Okay, so this will power your CPU. This is for your motherboard, whole motherboard. So after once you click the or press the power button, it will send a small amount of ampere current to every component. Okay, so very small amount it will send to each and every component. It is kind of like a check, and if it receives a confirmation, or if it is received back, then the hardware is capable enough to run for that particular time, right? So if it is not, it will show some error code here or somewhere. So you can see easy debug LED or something, right? So in my case also it is that, but in some of the motherboards it will have a number over here. So there you will be showing, it will be shown, and it So why I'm explaining this is it will be stuck here itself. Okay, so that is the thing. In some cases, your laptop also, it might take two or three times to one, like after clicking the power button, it won't turn on, right? Why? Because the post would have been failed at the first time, right? So it might need or you need to diagnose, or it might be a memory issue or some random issue with the hardware, which would result for the post to be failing. Okay, so that is the first thing which will happen in your hardware level. Okay, so this is a whole hardware level thing. And yeah, so this is your, where is your GPU you will be placing. This is your M.2 SSD drives, means your hard drive, not hard drive, your SSD drives for storage. Hard drives you will connect via SATA using this one. So like that, sorry, here. So yeah, so again, this is off topic, but just for like your explanation, I just shown you that. So after that, the very first thing and the most important thing in your whole mission is BIOS. Okay, so basic input output system, which is what, which defines your system, which means like without BIOS, your system can't even identify which one to be booted. It will be just like a typical kind of a dead motherboard you can take. So the motherboard must have some instruction, right? And there is a myth that, okay, many would think that your BIOS is residing in the under your hard disk. So no, your BIOS would be under your motherboard only. And yeah, so like your BIOS would be stored here, and this is called a CMOS battery. So this is the one which is powering your BIOS. Okay, so that is the thing. So let me show you what is. Let me take MSI BIOS only, so it will be easy for me to explain all the options because I explored all these options. So that is the reason. Okay, so here you see almost every hardware information. Okay, so you have CPU, memory, storage, fan info, and your so if you are having any updated version, you can update that, and almost every option you would see here. And the most important option of the whole thing is boot priority or boot order. Okay, so that is the most important one. And you might have seen this BIOS. Okay, so let's say some Intel BIOS screen. If you type, it will be in this old style blue color, right? So this is what you would be seeing previously. So this is for like if you have a gaming motherboard, you would see in this UI. So so as many elements it has been added, your BIOS size also would be increased. Okay, so again, it is the basic system info, and your boot order, it will be decided in your BIOS. Okay, so boot order. So what is the boot order now? So as I told, you will have a hard disk, let's say CD drive, and pen drive, let's say. Okay, so or removable disk. So it need to boot to either one, or which one is having a bootable disk. Let's say your hard disk is a bootable one, and the remaining one you didn't plug, or it is plugged, but you should not, you don't want that to be booted at first, right? So that is how the boot priority works. So first thing, it must be a bootable disk. So what is a bootable disk? That we will see later, but the bootable disk is the one uh, it should be booted, right? So if it is not, you might be seeing this error. Okay, so there is a network boot error. So in some weird cases in your laptop, if it didn't detected your hard disk or something, you might have seen this error, right? So like this PXE ROM error. So this is like no boot device found, which is it didn't found either one of these. So the last option here is network boot. So that is for a centralized boot in your, let's say, your library or some uh, like a series of systems, right? So when it connect to internet, you can boot at the same time. So that is what called as network boot. And so since it didn't found either one of these is having a boot order, or let's say something failed, your hard disk on your CD drive, pen drive is failed, the last option is your network boot. So that is what it is trying here. It will try to make a connection to any one of the internet, and obviously your laptop won't be part of anything, right? So it will be failing. So again and again it will be failing. So you need to fix this one. Again, we are going too deep, but you get the point, right? So that is the thing. So boot order and sysinfo. So that is what you will be doing in, or you will be having in your BIOS. Very, very important. And this is where you will be enabling your virtualization for your VMware. So that we will be seeing while we see how to install that. And yeah, so this is the explanation also, what is BIOS and all. So yeah, you can, anyhow, this will be shared with you guys. Okay, so you can go through this. And yeah, right. So it looks for bootloader. And yeah, so the next thing it will be loading is your MBR. Okay, so it is called as master boot record. So I'll be drawing it in a, let's say it booted to your hard disk. Okay, so, and this is not the same way your hard disk looks like. So let me open that. Yeah. So this is what your typical hard disk will look like. And it will be segregated in a sectors. Okay, so means like there will be different sectors in your hard disk. Not physically, but virtually there are so many sectors. It will be dissecting it into. So for your understanding, let me dissect like this. And the first thing it will look like, once it is booted, which one to be loaded first. So obviously the system doesn't know, right? So for the system to be knowing that you are like the first thing after the boot order, or this hard disk is booted, it will be putting to this MBR, means master boot record. Means like it is a very small in size, first thing, and that would have your grub. Okay, so grub is like this grand unified bootloader. So which is like we will come to the grub later, but that is what it will be stored in this MBR. So which one to be booted? So that itself is a one of the stage, right? So because if you see in this diagram, this is your IO head, it is called as, and this will be moving so fastly, and it will be reading the whole disk only. So it need to identify which one to be booted at first, right? So that is the reason in your old days, your hard disk will spin for some time during your after BIOS. Okay, so why? Because it need to detect or read that MBR. So again, there are two variants of this MBR, and GPT is there. So that one we'll see later. Okay, so that is the thing. Okay, so it is nothing but a small size at which it will be loading this grub. So what is grub now? Okay, so this is the interesting one. So let's say you might have seen this screen, right? So this, yeah, and yeah, so grub. So this is like, so you might have heard a term called as dual boot, right? So what is dual boot? So obviously you're not going to boot two system or two operating system at the same time, but your hard disk, the same hard disk which you selected has two operating system, two different operating system, or the same thing, let's say Windows 7 or Windows 11. So either way, you must select which one to be booted at the next thing, or which kernel to be loaded in the next stage, right? So for that, you need to identify which one to be loaded. Obviously, since it is part of the hard disk, it won't load the both the things, right? So it is kind of like a checkpoint at which you need to select, okay, it need to either boot to Windows or Linux, right? So you might have seen this one also, grub screen. Windows. Okay, so yeah, you might have seen this one. So this is nothing but in this same hard disk, he is having Windows 10, Windows 7, and Ubuntu. Okay, so like that, you might have seen this one. So this all are called as GRUB, Grand Unified Bootloader. Okay, so in your Android phone also there is a bootloader. Not only Android, any devices will have a bootloader. So bootloader is the one which will be having what and all should be loaded at first. Okay, so in this case, the next one, or the most important file of the whole server is kernel. So that is the one which will be loaded after this one. Okay, so let's say this guy is having Windows 11 and let's say RHEL 9. Okay, so he is having two OS in the same machine. So let's say he selected this one and he is going to boot it. Okay, so so after grub, he will be selecting, or the next thing it will be booted is kernel. So what is kernel, right? So let me just now I shown to one of the persons. So kernel, Linux kernel. Yeah, so this one. So this guy is the one who founded the Linux operating system, not like the basic kernel is the one which he found, and it is a public one. So if you have a knowledge good enough to contribute, of course, even you can contribute to the open source project like this one. Okay, so you can see how much popular this like this branch is, or this uh, the source code is, right? So this is the actual source code for your Linux, right? So this is the guy who coded that, and it has been public for so long. And you can see how many people downloaded it, how many starred, and how many commits were made. And these many contributors are there for this operating system. So that is the reason it is an open source operating system, right? So yeah. So why I am explaining this is the actual kernel of your, so not kernel, inside kernel. So you can see here, and inside kernel, so what is kernel, by the way? So kernel is the one which is the kind of heart of your system, right? So without kernel, or let's say if it is a corrupted kernel, it can't read almost anything, right? So let's say your disk info, drivers, and what else, like your IO devices, anything. So it must be, it is kind of like a how to say, it is kind of like a bridge. So without this kernel, it can't do anything, right? So that is the, and much more actually. I just listed basic things so that you can understand this one. Like whatever you see in your device manager, so in your Windows example I'm giving, so you see all this are hardwares, right? So, but you need some software which need to be loaded. So that is what called as driver. So then only that hardware will be triggered, right? So until then that hardware will be plugged in, and without that sufficient driver, it will be just turned on and nothing would be going on in the background, right? So that is the thing. So kernel is the one which will be having a metadata of this drivers as well. So what and all drivers is required for the specific hardware. Okay, so what is metadata? It is nothing but a data on data. Like what is the data should be loaded, right? So that is a actual that is another data, right? So just give a example like this one. So without this first row, you can't understand each column, right? So this first row is the metadata, right? So just for your understanding, I just took this employee data sheet. So without the serial number, name, or something, you can't figure out, okay, what is this? So let's say name in the sense first name, last name, or what is, it might be something, right? But without this salary section, you can't figure out, okay, it is a salary section, right? So that is the metadata. So that is the data which will be stored, not the same, but the metadata of almost many things, it will be stored in the kernel. Okay, so that is the use of kernel. And kernel, okay, let me reboot the machine. So I'll be showing you what is the kernel file. So before kernel, I'll be showing you the BIOS of our VMware, and then we'll be seeing the actual kernel. So once you reboot or boot your machine, so you just press F2 to boot to your BIOS. Okay, I'm just pressing F2. Okay, so this would be in a old school style, and yeah, it will be having all the basic info. So this is the actual BIOS of this VM, by the way. So I'll be showing you anyhow how to initiate this VM and all. But for the time being, so this is the system time and date, and yeah, you can ignore all these. So because none, there is not much info, and how much memory is in your system, and the basic info, how much CPU memory, all those, it will be here. And this is the actual boot order of this particular VM, right? So first thing, it is having removable devices. Next one is hard drive, and it is an expandable one. You see plus over here, right? So press enter. You can see these many hard drives are there in my case. So in your case, you might have only this NVMe disk, which we sell. Okay, we didn't done, but we will be selecting that while we boot or while we create our uh, virtual machine. Okay, so yeah, so let me do this one. Anyhow, we didn't done anything. So this is the basic info. Okay, it did went. So after BIOS, this is your grub screen. Okay, so you see there is two options over here. The very first thing is your actual operating system, and the next one is your rescue. So what is this rescue? We'll see that later. And so we'll be seeing what it is booting in this grub. So we are in this stage now. Okay, so instead of Windows 11 and RHEL 9, inside this RHEL 9 itself, we have having two variants of it. One is for the rescue disk or rescue thing, and the other one is your actual operating system. Okay, so click inside. So always, if you see this hand icon, so you just need to, or hand cursor, you just need to click inside. Then only you will be navigating to your VM or inside the VM. And if you want to come out, press Control and Alt together. And if you are in Mac, press Command and Alt together, so that it will become like you can navigate in your like a normal machine. Okay, so just press E to edit this one. So let me press E to show you what it does load. Okay, so you can ignore the first three lines. Actually, it won't be useful as of now for you. The the fourth line is, it is a single line, and if you see that, the first thing it is loading is Linux and the root account. For the time being, it is just an administrator account. So we'll see extensively how this root account or what is the purpose of it later. And this VM Linux. So this is your actual kernel file, and the root directory. This is this UUID, some random numbers and letters are there, right? So that is your actual root directory, and this crash kernel. So this and all you can ignore. And the last one is init RD. Okay, so init RAM disk, and that one you are having init RAM FS and some version .img. So this is your boot image. So in your grub itself, you are having both kernel as well as boot image. So what is a boot image is? The boot image, again, it will have all the necessary library files for the server to be booted fine, or the basic requirement you can take it as. Okay, so this is what it will be loading, and please don't edit anything here. So anyhow we will edit in some time, but as of now, just yeah, press escape to come back to the screen and press enter to boot. So anyhow, I will be showing you how to boot to this and all. But now it did move to the next section. This is your actual kernel which is loading, and this would take some time, and it will load all the devices and services. Okay, so if you press down arrow, once it is showing that loading icon, so you can see all this. Okay, so yeah, that is your kernel. So so even here it will be showing this sbin init. So actually, okay, once we booted, I'll be showing this init process. So that is what you will be seeing, and this is what we saw, right? Root equal to some random name, or some number combination of number and name. So that is what called as unified UID, or like that is the actual disk. So we'll see that as well. Okay, so which disk it will be booting right away. And yeah, this is a configuration file again. Okay, so yeah, so this init process is the one. So the next one is your actual init process. Okay, so after kernel, it will be booting to this init process. So yeah, so what is init? So even your, so all this operation would be same for your Windows except this MBR. Why? Because there is another one called as GPT. I will cover that at the last once I done this one. Okay. Yeah. So now we are seeing init. So what is this init process, right? So init is nothing but after selecting the kernel, so which way I want to boot to the machine, right? So which way, in the sense, there are multiple ways or multiple modes you can take it as, or like as per the like notes, you can take it as run levels, because the next one is run level. So you can, like, there is 6 init stages or run level, either way you can take it. So what it means is, so this is the way for the time being it will be booted to. Okay, so if you type init 0, it will shut down. So okay, so that is the thing. Let me show you. So if I type init 0, it will shut down the machine. In the terminal, if I type that, it will shut down, and whatever you're seeing it here, right? So it will be having its own purpose of it. Okay, so again, it is part of this configuration file. So what is configuration file and this file systems? In this today's session, we'll be seeing that as well. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, Jenny, it is already recording. Okay, so yeah, you will get the recording actually. So any doubts till now? So we just saw the basic things, and yeah, still we are ready to complete. So let me complete, and I will ask any doubts if needed. Okay. So this init, I will be showing a Windows example how it works. So system. So just type system configuration in your start. Okay, and this advanced boot option. So you might have seen at least once this screen, right? So in your Windows, from your Windows 8 like days, you might have seen this screen. So what is the screen is? It is nothing but your init. Okay, so your init process is this screen. So almost it is same. Okay, so yeah. So this is the system configuration one. So let me just give a Windows example of this one. What is init? Okay. So the very first thing is you are having init 0. Okay. So 0 is nothing but shutdown. So means, let's say if I want to shut down this machine, so instead of going here and shutting down on the software itself, I can do that. It is just like your shutdown icon here. So if I type init 0, it will be shutting down the machine. Okay, so it might take some time, but it will eventually, yeah, it did shut down, right? So that is what the use of this 0, or the purpose of that init process, by the way. Sorry, init level, run level. So the next one is init1. So init1 is, you can see it here, single user mode, which means, so first thing is you need to understand what is single user mode and multi-user mode. So in your Windows, or typically as of now, you are used to single user mode, right? So what is single user mode and multi-user mode? Okay, so simply said, single user mode is, for the time being, I can only control this machine, right? So this is the actual, so this particular screen which you're seeing here, right? So this is called as console. So console in the sense, I can change the configuration from the hardware perspective as well as software, and only I can do that, right? So I am the actual sysadmin for this particular mission. So like that, in your production servers or in your enterprise, there would be a person called as field engineer. So he would be in the data center, and he is the one who will have access to the console. Okay, so that is the thing. And since only that guy can access that, right? So anywhere, if you see a console, it would become a single user, right? Because only that particular person or only one session you can take it. So that is your single user mode. Okay, so only I can do here. So if I open the putty session, simply if you have the same IP, and if I'm connected to a DNS and I share my IP correctly, even you can connect to the same server, So that is a multi-user mode. Okay, so that is the difference between single and multi-user. And this multi-user mode is not applicable in your Windows machine. So it is applicable, but not in an efficient way, because in your Linux, you can take multiple session of the same mission, right? So or multiple remote session. So whatever you're doing in this kitty or putty, right? So it is a remote session, it is called as, or remote connection. So I can take n number of connection of the same server. It doesn't like, it doesn't throw any error that okay, you exceeded your limit, something like that. Obviously we can limit that, but for the time being it won't by default, right? Whereas in your Windows, you can log into a same user, only one session, only one remote connection you can take. Okay, so if I'm using admin account, and if you are also going to take the same admin account for the Windows server, you can't actually. So if you connect, it will be disconnecting from my end. Okay, so that is the major drawbacks of Windows server. So not only that, many are there, but that is one of the major drawback of Windows server. Okay, so that is the use of multi-user mode. So I can take same root user like 10 session also. It won't throw any error. Okay, so that is called as TTY, teletypewriter. So those are we'll be seeing later. And yeah, why we cover this topic is we are seeing this init1, right? So this is your console view, you can take it as single user mode is. Okay, so okay, so this 2 is your multi-user without NFS. So it is as same as your enable safe mode, enable safe mode only. So if you select this option 4, without internet it will be loaded, or the network adapter here which you see here, right? It won't be loaded. So if you select the option 5, it will be loaded along with the network adapter. So why we don't want the network adapter and why we want the network adapter, right? So in, let's say there is a weird scenario in your Windows machine that there is an intruder or some adware, let's say. So every time you connect to the internet, it is sending some data to that some X company, right? So you need to uninstall that. So only by going to the safe mode only you can do that, because it doesn't connect to the internet, right? Or it won't have the internet or the driver itself. So simply you can go there and uninstall that. It won't even throw any error. So that is the use in Windows perspective. So in Linux, if you don't want to load the NFS drives, or if you don't want it to connect to the internet, you will be having this multi-user without network driver. Okay, so that is your second init2. So multi-user without network. And option 3 is the most used one. And in your production servers or in your company, anywhere, you will be using this multi-user with internet or network. Okay, so option 4 is not used, so you can ignore that. So option 5 also will be a useful one. It is called as X11 or GUI mode. So what is? So it is nothing but your this mode. So if I connect to this VM using Kitty, so don't worry about this Kitty configuration. I will be explaining that anyhow today. So yeah, the SSH in my case, the disclaimer is it will take at least 10 seconds to load. But yeah, once it is loaded, it will be fine. But yeah, it might take some time. So in my case, the run level, since I have GUI, right? My run level is init 5. So just type run level. It would be okay. It is showing unknown, but if I show or open in this terminal, it is init 5. Okay, so that is nothing but your X11. Okay, so after that, if you type sorry, the next run level is 6, which is a reboot. So if you type init 6, it will be rebooting your machine. So just type init 6 and go to your console. It will reboot your machine. See, it did. Okay, so that is the run levels or init. So both are almost same. So what is the difference between init and run level? So the next thing is your run level. So what is, and this is the last stage. Okay, so it is nothing but your startup apps. So let's say you selected init 3. So as I told, init 3 and 5 are the most used one. Okay, so you selected either one, and after that, some of the services or some of the application should be loaded along with that, right? Along with this mode. So for that, you'll be selecting this or you'll be adding some configuration in this run levels. So for that, you're having this path etc rc.d and this particular. So the same run level, you'll be seeing it here 0 to 6. The operations are same. So yeah, let's say you're having a startup health check. Okay, so that need to be started every time you log into that machine. Okay, and it should send some mail or it need to be loaded, let's say. So you will place that specific script over this path, and that would be loaded every time you connect to that specific run level, let's say run level 3. Okay, so that is your run levels. So let me type that. So with that, your whole booting thing is done, and after that only you'll be seeing this screen. Okay, so yeah. So after this, so in your AWS or GCP, you won't see either of these steps. Why? Because it will be running, but you won't have the access to the console. It is single user mode. You won't have access, right? Because yeah, so you're accessing a remote connection only of that machine. So in this case, I am the admin or I am the kind of, let's say, field engineer, anything you can take. I can control whatever you are seeing it here. Whereas in your AWS, you don't have the control over which data center. Or obviously, you can check the or change the data center. You don't know where it is located or how many servers are there in that data center or how many racks are there. So you don't know the exact location of it. So you won't have the access to the console as well. So remote connection only you are doing to this any one of the cloud service provider like AWS or GCP or anything. Okay, so yeah, so run level, load or execute. Oops. init stage, let's say. Okay, so, and this is the path. APC rc.d and rc, let's say either version 3.d. Okay, so yeah. So this is your whole thing. And what is MBR and GPT? As I told, so first thing, MBR is master boot record, right? And GPT. So GUID partition table. So both has or both are a totally different way of configuring your like your hard disk, let's say. So this one will have a different approach to the sector, creating a sector or how much size each sector to be. MBR would have a different approach and GPT would have different. So where does this GPT comes in is, so almost like 90% your Windows would have GPT based. So you can even do after the session, just right click your Windows icon, go to disk management and right click. Obviously there will be one disk, right? So right click the disk and properties, go to volumes, and you would see almost any you would see GPT only. Okay, so the partition style it is called as, and it is GPT. Okay, so that is the thing. So we won't go much detail in that, how are like how what are all the two many difference are there, but yeah, you need not know too much about this MBR and GPT because you won't. So in your Linux, you'll be using MBR only. Okay, so that is the thing. So yeah, this is your booting procedure. And is there any doubts till now? So after this, we'll be just seeing the installation of this VMware and initializing this virtual instance. Any doubts, Jenny or someone? Ashraf? So if you have doubts, please do raise your hand and I would unmute you. Okay, so yeah. Okay, difference in MBR and Grub. So MBR and Grub are okay. So MBR, right? So MBR is like nothing but it is not a huge task, Nitesh. Okay, so Grub is, so let me just explain how Grub works so that MBR will make sense. Okay, so Grub is placed inside that MBR. Okay, so it is nothing but a container, let's say, or some thing, and you're, so let's say you're having the first sector of it. So this is, let's say this is the first sector it need to be loaded. So Grub would be placed inside that. Okay, so that is the thing called as MBR. Okay, so the whole thing is MBR. This is the partition style, right? So this is a totally different thing. And this Grub, the purpose of Grub, as I told, is which one to be booted first, right? So that is the next stage of this one. So Grub will be residing under this sector, and how the sectors are defined is using this MBR partition style. So that is the important key point here, partition style. Okay, so yeah, both are different in many way. Yeah. So yeah, now we'll be seeing how to initiate virtual machine. So let me stop this one. So, or let me suspend this one. So the very first thing is actually, if you like the installation of this VMware one, right? Yeah. So let me send the drive link once again in the chat. So this drive link would have all the resource section of the whole session, right? So the whole 20 hours, whatever we are going to see, everything related to our the sessions, it will be posted here. Especially the resources like any files or videos or anything, it will be posted here. Okay. So let's go to this ISO and VMware. Let's say you downloaded this one. So this is your VMware workstation. Uh, so this is a licensed one, by the way. So like if you download from the official site, it will be evaluation version is 60 days, I guess. So I even provided the key for it. So with this key, you will have a lifetime access to this one. And yeah, please do use the key. So that anyhow, it is provided with the file. Okay. And yeah, so once you downloaded that, you will have the option. Okay, let me just open this. Okay, so it is typical installation, how like any Windows installation, how it works. And for the people who are like using Mac, right, you are having an option or the version called as VM Fusion, it is called as. So this is for your Mac. So VMware on Mac. Again, it is a free one, I guess. You need not pay anything for this one. Okay, so yeah. So this is for the Windows one, and it is typical installation like any other software. So you just double click it because I can uninstall and reinstall, but it will take a lot of time. So it is just like a typical installation. So that is the reason I created a created a document in this one. So it is already here. So VMware Workstation installation. Okay, so just double click that and please do download that and install if your system is capable enough. Okay, so and if you are already using some okay, so let's say your enterprise laptop, or if your laptop is restricted or something, you need not do either of these. So you can right away go to AWS or GCP. Again, you won't pay anything for this as well. Anyway, you will be having free lab only. So you need not pay anything. Okay. So this is the installation, and lastly you have this key. So you just place the key wherever it is asking for this license key, and you're good to go. So you'll be seeing this home section. This is your home page of this VMware Workstation. So after you're seeing this one, again you're not. So you should be downloading this ISO as well. So that without that it doesn't make sense, right? So this is your actual operating system, and why the first thing is I might have told before that Linux is a lightweight one than your Windows. So Windows operating system typically would be around 3.4 gigs. Your Linux would be around, the basic thing is just 800 MB. Your the base operating system is just 800 MB. And you might ask, okay, why? If you just told just now that it is 800 MB and it is around 9.43 gigs is why? Because it is including the packages. So the basic packages which are required for the operating system, or even third-party packages like Python or something, it will be included with the this ISO. So that is the reason it is huge one. And please do download in either way. So I included multiple torrents, and I will try to include the torrent executable as well. And yeah, well, now I can include that so that easily you can use that, right? So torrent, I guess yesterday we did downloaded that. So using that, you can easily uh, install, or you can easily download that. Okay, so just a sec, I just paused the screen share. I'll be placing just now only so that I won't forget it later. Okay. So did anyone download it in the meantime, like yesterday? Srinivas, yeah. Yes, Srinivas, you are unmuted. Yeah, I did placed here. Okay, so yeah, so this is again is very straightforward. So do install this one and double click, so download and double click this one, this .torrent file. It should you're good. Okay, so it will be downloading, and so without, let's say you are having any internet issue also, it should be fine. So it will be again resuming itself. So because many did face while downloading the huge file like this one, that is the reason I included this torrent one as well. So once you are done with that, you do download the Kitty as well. So Kitty is nothing but a fork of Putty. So Putty is again a remote connection software. It is very lightweight, just like a single image or a PDF file size only it will be. Okay, so so you can see 766 KB. So it is a fork in the sense it is same as Putty, but it is having one good feature. So we'll cover that later. So this all are needed just only for the people who are going to configure locally. So if you are not, or if you don't want to configure locally, you can wait for another 10 to 15 minutes. We'll cover how to do in cloud. Okay. So the first thing which you need to do is create a new virtual machine. So this is the home page, by the way. So just boot to that. So you won't see anything like this here. So yeah, and go to view and show this library. So then only you will have this section, by the way, and create a new virtual machine. So once you click that, so don't go with the typical one. So we'll be doing the custom one next. So this is nothing but the hardware capability. So let's say if you select the oldest one, you can see the hardware itself will be very less capable. And yeah, so anyhow, as of now, it is fine. Like anyhow, you don't have like in your laptop or in your system, you won't have like 8 TB of disk, or if you have also, you won't be using that for virtually, right? Virtual machine. So yeah, you're good here. Don't change anything over here. Just click next. And here you just need to select the ISO. So if you don't also, you can select later. But if you select now only, you're having a good thing like a thing called as easy install, which is easy install in the sense it will be installing itself, or the default options will be selected. So you need not need to configure anything afterwards. I'll be showing it where it does that. Okay, so the next thing is, so this is a easy install information. Okay, so just give any name. So typical name, I'll be just giving user one, and the password is 1234. And this info many would miss, and they would have a lot of doubts with this. So this password is for both user and the root account. As I told, root is a administrator account, right? So the just like this account. So you must, or this password is shared for both user and root account. So just click on next, and you need to type a virtual machine name. So I'll just give rel, and if you have another partition other than C, you please do install in that. So I do have multiple partitions. So I'll be installing in this F, and I'll be making new VM lab, let's say. Okay, so I'll be installing this new VM lab. The virtual machine name is rel. Okay, so next, and it will create a file called as .vmx. So we'll go to that path and see that. And this next option, this is an important option, by the way. So you're selecting how many CPU cores you want it to be using. So as I told in last session, it will be doing a resource sharing, right? So yeah, task manager. So you just go to your CPU here, and you need to select this one. So like as per your core count, in my case, I have 8 core and 16 threads. Okay, so I can select one. So in your case also, at least one should be there, right? So you just select that. So if your system is just having 2 cores, please don't use this VMware. Okay, so you can use the cloud service provider because it will be very slow and it won't be usable. It will stuck. Okay, so at some point. So if you have 4 core and 8 threads, you're good to go. So you can install this one. Okay, and click on next, and you're having this memory. So memory again, it will be selecting itself, and in my case, since I have 8 gigs, it is selected 2 gigs for the VM. So if you have 4 gigs only, it will select only 1 gig. 1 gig is more than enough actually for a Linux VM especially. For Windows, everything should be doubled. Okay, so your core count should be at least 2, and your virtual memory should be at least 3 to 4 gigs. Okay, so then only it will be usable. So it will be stuck, but it will be at least usable somewhat. Next, and this network connection, you are having multiple ways, so you can use either bridged or NAT. So network address translation. So yeah, I personally use NAT, so it is very straightforward and used widely. And this bridged also you can use. Either way, it will connect to the internet, and you're good there. Okay, so next, and this IO controller and all, you just keep the recommended one. So next, so this is an important one. So virtual disk type. So what is your disk type? So these are all the different ways of disk types are there. So you have SCSI, SATA, and NVMe. So IDE is there, but it is depreciated. So it is very old one. So yeah, we won't use that. So SATA and NVMe. So that is what you saw in that. I told SSD, right? So that SSD is your NVMe SSD. So even I do have that. So that is what the fastest as of now. Okay, so that is what we'll be selecting. But again, if you're anyhow you're going to install on top of your hard disk, right? So if you select this also, uh, your hard disk speed is the one which will be used, or that is the speed it determines the usage. Okay, so next thing is your hard disk, sorry, virtual disk. Obviously, you don't have a virtual disk as of now, right? So create a new virtual disk next. This one, by default, it is 20 gigs, it is fine. And this single file and multiple files. Okay, so this is the two options. And in your VMware vSphere, which is used in your production servers, right? You will have two options called as the same options, but in a different way, it is called as thin provisioning and thick provisioning. So let me quickly explain that. This is thick, this is thin. Let's see. Okay, so thick provisioning, let's say the same 20 gigs I'll take. Then also 20 gigs. Okay, so let's say the whole 20 gigs has been utilized. Okay, so let's say the whole thing has been utilized, or it will be created right away, the whole 20 gigs. Okay, so that is what called as thick. So right away it will be created, or it will be allocated in the hard disk. If it is thin, it will be based on your usage. So let's say I'm using only 1 gig for the time being, and let's say in next year I'm using 3 gigs. So the remaining gigs will be unused or unutilized here. So it will have less size impact. So we will be using split virtual disk into multiple files. So this is nothing but a thin provisioning, and this is a store virtual disk as a single file. This is thick provisioning. Actually, it should be named as that, but yeah, it is. So, but that is the actual meaning of that. And the next one is you need to locate your or store it in a specific path. So I typically store my VMs in a single path. Okay, so new one I store. So that let's say if you want to remove the disk or if you want to locate it, it will be very easy. So I just created a directory there and I store it in some name. So once you're done, this is a kind of a summary. What and all you configure, click on finish, and right away it will power on the VM. So now it will throw some error for some people. So what is that error would be like? virtualization is not enabled, or VTX, VT-X is disabled or something. So for the people who have or like facing that issue, so the very first thing you need to do is, or what is that issue is nothing but your virtualization is not enabled in your BIOS. Okay, so now how would you enable that? So just of course you know your laptop vendor, right? So just let's say it is HP laptop. So HP, in my case I have Victus. So HP Victus uh, virtualization. So just search with your vendor or the like your HP is my vendor and the model name and virtualization. How to enable that? So the very first link will be your official one. So you can follow that guide. Why I'm explaining this much is many did face this issue and it was a hassle for me to guide everyone. So it is very, very useful for you to, or you must do no other way if you're planning to use in your local machine. Okay, so yeah, Munir Basha, it is fine. Bridge network also will be working as expected. So it is HP I told. So let's say it is Lenovo you're trying. So see the very first link, it will be the one. So Dell, so not, let me remove the Victus one, but still it is how to enable or disable hardware virtualization. Everything will be redirecting to your BIOS only, but as expected, each vendor has their own BIOS key. So in my case, HP is having F10. So in Lenovo, sometimes it would be, yeah, you can see F1 is your BIOS button. So that is the reason. Please do Google. It will just take 30 seconds and see. So first thing, since you're already turned or working in your laptop, right? Just go to your task manager and in your performance CPU, see virtualization is enabled or not. If it is disabled here, so you are the one, you need to Google this one and search and configure it. Okay, so still if you have doubt, then reach out to me in my mail. I'll be posting my mail in the chat now, so that please note down my mail. So any doubts, you can reach out to me. I'll be sending in my notes as well. So yeah, this is here how to enable the virtualization, because that is very, very important. Okay, so in while I explained that this started installing, so this would take at least 15 to 20 minutes, depends on your hard disk speed, hard disk or SSD. So for the people who are in or using hard disk, it might take more time. Okay, so or in some cases it might stuck. So if you are stuck, you just go here and restart your guest. Okay, so again it will start installing and you're good to go. Okay, so just wait for the ETA would be around 30 minutes. So maximum of 30 minutes it would take. And yeah, so that is how you will install. So once it is installed, we will configure the kitty. So before that, we will be seeing how to use in our AWS and GCP. Okay, so while that loads. So AWS account creation and account creation is very easy and right away you can do that. So just go to aws.amazon.com and click on sign in, or if you click on sign in, it will ask you to create the account. So yeah, if I sign in now, it will be again like it will auto populate my details. And so the payment which is allowed in this one is, obviously you need to give some mode of payment, because you're going to use their resource, right? Not your own system. It is their data center servers you will be accessing. So you need to not pay, at least you need to give some basic details, so that if you are exceeding your free tier, obviously you will be charged. The cost will be incurred from your credit card or your debit card. Okay, so credit card or your debit card is allowed in your AWS, and in your GCP, only credit card it is allowed, and only few cards like MasterCard and sorry, MasterCard and Visa, I guess, the one which is allowed in your GCP. AWS, I guess, mostly since it has been there for so long, AWS, they do allow a lot of vendors. And yeah, you can use either of those. But I personally prefer GCP. Why? Because they are giving this $300 credit at first. Okay, so yeah, anyhow, first thing you'll see how this AWS works. So this is the actual dashboard which we'll be seeing right away. So you need not change the region or anything. So let's say if you're part of India, you need not change to Mumbai or something. Let it be by default. Anyhow, if there is latency also, you won't, like, typically you won't see that often. Okay, so don't worry about that. So this is the actual dashboard. So you don't worry about all these services and all. So just we are going to use only the EC2 instance. Okay. So yeah, you can just search in this global search as well. So just search for EC2 Elastic Compute Cloud. So that is the EC2. Okay. So yeah, so typically you're going to use a remote connection to the data center server from some location in the North Virginia. So yeah, you can see a lot of zones are there. So each zone will be in some region. So yeah, even no one knows where it will be loaded, right? Wherever it is available, it will be loaded. So that is the thing. And the very first thing is you must see this info or this info panel. So if you don't see this free tier, means your account might be already utilized, or that's what it will be already utilized for 1 year. Your free tier is. So please do create a new account and follow all the process, like adding a credit card to it. And again, the good part is you can add the same credit card to a number of IDs as well. Okay, so you won't be restricted in that. So yeah, every now and then I just, okay, it is installing. So yeah, this is very important. If you don't see this, obviously your cost will be incurred and you should not blame me. Okay. So yeah. So now just going to the name, you can give anything. So I'll just give lab, and without name also it will work. Okay. So that is the thing. And the next one is you have this Amazon Linux. So these are all called as AMIs. Okay. So yeah, this so many images are there. So nothing but your ISO virtually. Okay, so Amazon did pay the license on your behalf for all this. So many are there, right? So many vendors are there. Even you can create your own version of AMI. So we won't go too deep into that. So we have Red Hat here. Okay, so this is the official one, and it is a good thing is it is free tier eligible. Okay, so you need not pay for the license as well. So you just select that. The architecture is 64-bit by default. And yeah, so this is again a very important one. So always select the free tier eligible only. So if you select some other, obviously it will work. I'm not saying it won't. The cost will be incurred per hour. So you can see per hour it will be incurring $0.2, sorry, $0.1 or something. So which is not a lot, but over the time it will be a huge amount. Okay, so here we did selected 1 CPU, 1 gig of memory. Why 1 gig is more than enough in this case is we don't have a GUI. Only CLI is the one which we are going to use in this AWS. Okay, and the next one is you are having key pair. So in my case, I have a lot of key pairs, so you don't worry about that. So first thing, you create a new key pair. So what is this key pair and everything? We will have a dedicated session on that, and that would be very interesting. Trust me, it will be an awesome session. But we will see that later. Okay, so if I explain that now, for sure you'll be confused. For the time being, it is nothing but the private key and public key will be placed inside that server, and public key will be downloaded here. Okay, so So this .ppk is putty private key. Sorry, putty public key it will be. So that is what it will be used, or you can use that. This is the only way of authenticating. Okay, so as you know, you have two modes of authentication is password and key based. So key based is the one which we are going to see, this one. So password is it can be compromised, right? So let's say if I have access to this link or this VM, and if I know your password, simply I can use this VM forever, right? So that is the reason AWS or any cloud service provider have only the key based authentication. So only if you have the public key and it is a usable public key, then only you can at least log into the machine. Okay, so that is a very nice move on like all these vendors, cloud service vendors. Okay, so key name, anything you can give. So I'll be just giving uh, Logic Labs 138. Okay, so again, there are different keypad types. So these all will cover later. So most used keypad type is RSA. Okay, so just create that. So this .pem, I didn't explain that. So .pem means you can connect from your command prompt itself. Okay, so we don't. So I personally don't use the command prompt because in your kitty you have much more options and it is fairly simple. So that is the reason. And please don't change any of this VPC network settings or change the firewall. So by default, it does allow every connection. So anywhere, right? So that is the thing. And don't add much. So obviously you will have 30 gigs. So anyhow, during disk management, we'll be using the rest of it, right? So please don't use more than 10 gigs. So that is more than enough actually. Okay, so yeah, and you must see this message, the launch instance. And once you are done with the session or once you're done with the lab every day, please do stop the instance. So if you didn't stop and it is turned on for let's say 15 to 20 days, obviously it will be incurring the cost and it will be a huge amount. Okay, so that is the thing. So let it, so the instance is as of now spinning in some data center and it is running now. So previously it used to be a bit slow. So since AWS has been aged well, so it is very fast nowadays. So simply you just connect and that's it. So we didn't install anything or we didn't even, it is just 5 minutes. But for basic account setup, at least it will take 2 hours to verify your payment. So only for that, it will take the 2 hours. Okay, so you will get this public DNS. So how I got to this connect screen is just click on that instance name and just a sec. Yeah, click on this checkbox, click on connect. Okay, so you have multiple ways of connecting to your machine. So we'll just take this SSH client and you just go to copy the 4th point. This is your actual DNS name of your machine. Control C. And now is where you will be using the kitty. Okay, so yeah, so do download that from ISO and VMware, this drive link. Yeah, this first file. Okay, so download it from there. And this is your screen and you won't see any of the saved session. So the very first thing is you need to give a name for the session. Okay, let it be rel and the host name. So just the DNS name which you copied, right? So paste it. And the port is 22. So 22 is for the SSH port. By default, 22 it will be. So connection type is SSH, which we selected, right? So that is the reason you see 22 over there. So don't ever change this one because one of the person changed and he had that doubt for so long. So that is the reason. Okay. So don't ever change that. And I'll be going one by one in this section. And I didn't save it as of now. Okay, so just type this name and this post name and come to the next one. So if you want to store whatever happening in your PT session, right, you can store it as a logs. So you can actually, it's your choice. And if you want to bootstrap a script, right? So let's say you're having a script, you want to start along with your mission, you can give this one, or you can give in some other option as well. I will be showing you later. So you don't change this all. And if you don't want that annoying bell sound, remove that, giving none over here. And yeah, so this window is very, very important option. This one, lines of scroll back. So you might think, okay, 10,000 is a huge, a lot of lines, right? But let's say you are going to read a huge log. So you will be reading or need a lot of lines. So you need to scroll back to the very first line, right? So at that time, if you change also, it will work, but you can change this and anyhow you will save this session, right? So just change this lines of scroll back to a huge number. Okay, so yeah, so this number is more than enough in our case. And yeah, if you want to increase the font size, you can this all if you want. You can change the color if you want, you can change it over here. So foreground, you can change this one. And connection. Okay, so this one you can give 30. So every 30 seconds, it will be sending a null packet to your mission. So just enable this TCP keep alive as well. So it will be sending a 0 KB by packet or that network packet to the server. So that your mission will be alive forever until you are closing the session. Okay. So come to the data section, and this is where you will be giving the username and password. So you won't see this password section in your PuTTY by default. Okay, so that is the usage of PuTTY. I personally majorly depend on this auto login password. So that is the reason. So sorry, not root, right? So in our case, we are going to configure EC2, right? So we use EC2-user. So this is the default username. And since it is a passwordless authentication, we will be configuring the. So just go to this, expand this SSH and go to auth. Okay, so I just expanded. So let's say if it is like cascaded this one, like expand this, expand the SSH, and you'll be seeing this auth. And go to browse. Now you can see this LL. So in my case, if this is the .ppk file name. In your case, you can keep any name you want. So you don't change remaining things as well. So just, I didn't save this one, right? So now if I click on save, so whatever changes which I made, right, it will be saved in this single session. And you can even bookmark that over here. Okay, so you will be seeing that here and you can bookmark that. So just double click this. If you see this alert, security alert, so you can access the, or the system can detect a foreign connection, which is, it is like it didn't found this system to be trusted as of now. So you want it to be trusted or not. So that is what it is asking here. Accept. So yeah, you can see using username this user, and it is using this public key, and it is logged in. So if you see this line, this is your actual shell of this user, and you're good to go. Okay, so you just type sudo su-root. So as I told, root user is a very, very important, or you must become as a root user always. So sudo su-root. To log in as a root user. Or actually, in this case, we are switching to the root user, but fine, anyhow. So this is the thing. So if you see this line, so you're good to go. So now we did configure this session. So this will be staying on forever. until you shut stop the instance. So you don't have a static IP, right? So which is, so in some cases, let's say you stop this instance and starting it again, you might not be able to connect it back. Why? Because this IP is not a static one. So for a static IP, you will be paying that. So elastic IPs you see here, right? You will be paying for that. So please don't do that. So anyhow, just you need to change the IP. So just copy this one. Let's say if it is changed, in that case, you just copy and change it in this new session. Just click on load and change it here, the new one. Okay, so then click on save. Okay, so that's it. It will be to the new DNS or the IP. Okay, so this is how typically you will be logging in. So it will be taking hardly 10 minutes for you to spin up a AWS instance. Okay, so once you're done, always make sure you stop the instance and yeah, so you must stop. So don't terminate it right away. You won't be there won't be any cost incurred for having an instance. So when it's running only, they need to pay the bills, right? So they will be, so obviously you are the one using, right? So you need to pay to AWS or Amazon. Okay, so this is for Amazon. So now I'll be showing you. So let me stop it now only. So how to initiate in your GCP. So the disclaimer in GCP is the first thing, it will be a bit complex for you, the user interface itself. It won't be as easy as your AWS, but it is good. So they are improving in some way. So yeah, just a sec. Okay, what is the difference between Putty and Kitty? Nothing, Isidore. Okay, so Kitty is a fork of Putty. Fork in the sense it is kind of like advanced features it is there. Okay, so what is those advanced features? I'll be covering that in later session. Yeah, so I'll be showing now only. So the advanced feature is like like almost everything will be here. So you can start a WinSCP, port forwarding is here, and yeah, so you can save a session right away from here. So very few changes. The major advantage I personally use is saving the password, right? So simply you can save your username and password, and you can like anyhow you will be using that session forever, right? So that is the thing. Okay, so before going to GCP, this is loaded. For this mission, we'll be configuring our Putty session. Okay, so user one, we won't be logging in. So just click on. So this is an actual lock screen, by the way. So all this booting step is done, and lastly, you will be seeing this lock screen. So once you see this, click on not listed, type root, and just type the password which I typed 1234 in my case. So for the initial time, it will take some time to load because it need to initiate all the drivers, right? So exactly, you can use anyone, Veera. Okay, so I personally prefer Kitty. Okay, so you can use Kitty as well. So you just ignore this one. So system not register. So we will register later. So just go to activities and this terminal. So yeah, so the very first command which we'll be typing is this is for VMware server or VMware instance. Okay, so you will be typing the command if config -in to see the NIC info. So NIC is nothing but network so network interface card. So config sorry guys, so if config -a, so you have one NIC card which we configured in this VM. So how to go to the VM settings once again, and let's say if I want to add some more hardware component virtually, So just right click that VM, go to settings. Okay, so yeah, you will have the same whatever you saw or configured during the initial setup, right? So you will be seeing the same. And let's say you want to remove this printer. So since we don't use that, right? So if you want to remove, so the very first thing is while your system is powered on, it won't allow you to remove anything. Okay, so it will allow you to add, but it won't allow you to remove. So let's say if I want to add a network adapter, since we are in network section, right? So click on finish. So I added another connection, click on OK. So my system will be automatically detecting that new connection and it will be loading that respective driver. So if I load the same command again, so I just pressing up arrow on my keyboard, okay? And if config, you can see previously it was 160, right? So now it is 224 is also there. So which means it is a another, let's say, for your understanding, it is like having these two one. So two LAN connection, let's say. So that is a good thing about virtual machines. So virtually you can create any number of connections. Okay, so ENS 160, 224, either one I'll be connecting. So I'll be using 160. Same thing. So this IP and I'll be setting local VM and the same options I'll be giving. I don't like this bell feature, by the way, so I'll be ignoring that or removing that right away. Connection 30. So in this case, the data section, so just give root. Directly will be logging in as root. So for the people who are using user, right? So for them, so I'll be showing you how it works. Okay. So yeah, just type root and the password 1 2 3 4 in my case, and you can bootstrap any command. Okay, so let's say if you want to run this if config every time you boot to the session, you can type it over here, whatever command you want. So these are all own options not there in your PuTTY. Okay, so auto command login script also you can run right away. So yeah, since it is not a key based, you can save it and double click it. So again, it is a foreign connection for the server. So just we did logged into the same server remote connection we did log there. Okay, so that is the thing. No, so many would think it is a different server. So no, it is a same mission. So I'm confirming it is. Let me just create a empty file and show it in the file explorer. So this is the file explorer in your Linux or this mission, and the same file explorer or the doc, like sorry, the same files and directories would be here. So I'll be touch is a command to create a dummy file. So I'll be creating a file like Mary or something. Okay, so LL if I do, it is to list that. So you can see Mary is created and it is a empty file. You can see Mary. Okay, so was yeah, so many would has the doubt, okay, we are in a different mission. No, we are connected to the same mission remotely. Okay, so that is the purpose of this PT or PuTTY. Okay, so yeah. So every time first thing you must do is your connection is done. So the next thing is you need to change the host name of the server. So what is host name in this case is just type host name. You can see this localhost.local domain. So by default, it will be this one. Okay, so you need to change that. So you have multiple methods to change that. So we will take a easy route and change it. Okay, so just type host name CTL. Okay, so space set hyphen host name. So host name CTL is a command and set host name as I will set as logic labs dot local domain. So since we don't have a DNS, I'll be just mentioning as dot local domain. So this whole thing is called as FQDN. Okay, so FQDN, which is fully qualified domain name. Okay, so which is nothing but your along with your DNS you are placing. So enter. So if I reload this or create a duplicate session of this one, so now it will be loaded as Logic Labs. Okay, so yes, Srinivas, you are unmuted. Okay, fine. So you can see Logic Labs. So now if you type host name, or you can type host name CTL status. You can see the whole info of your mission. So this is the actual info, and the next command you will be using is cat. So cat is concatenation with its full form is. So we will see next session what is cat and all. But for the time being, the use of it is it will print whatever you're viewing or whatever file you're going to print in the shell. Okay. So cat/etc Red Hat release. So this is the actual version which we install in our machine. Okay, and you are having this command called as uname. So this will be showing you even much more info. So this version you might have seen in our grub, right? So that is the one. And what is the date and the specific time now? What is the architecture it is? Okay, so that and the host name. So that is the info, the basic commands which we'll be using once you right away logged in. So the command is hostname CTL set hostname anything. So in my case, I just set as Logic Labs local domain. So if you are part of a domain, obviously you can mention like .ca for Canada or something, or .com something. But since we don't have a DNS, we are mentioning that .local domain. Okay. So once that is done, you can see that in status. And after that, you can just type hostname. It will be showing that one. Okay. And you can even configure it in this path, etc hostname. So what is etc? What is slash? This path and all, I didn't explain it in today's session. So tomorrow's session, we'll be seeing those things. Okay. So yeah. So now we'll be seeing the how to configure in GCP. So again, GCP cloud.google.com. See, get $300 in free credits and free usage of 20 products. So these products, the main product we personally would use is the VM instances, right? So that is the thing. And yeah, this one. Okay, so just a sec. Let me change my ID over here. So obviously you can share some share like your ID as well. Sorry, ID means so you can use the same ID for many users as well, unless he is not stopping the instance. Okay, so that is the thing. So just go to this is the actual home page. So just go to the search and type compute engine, or you can go via this navigation menu. So it won't be as same or as pleasing as your AWS, but it does the job. Okay. So compute engine. So first time if you do, it will be asking you to enable API. So since I already done that, it is not showing in my case. So you just enable that. Then only you'll be seeing the screen. Okay. So yeah, click on create instance. The same options, but yeah. So just type lab. And don't change the region and all. So anyhow, we'll be using the same. So in my case, actually, let me see whether it is free tier. Okay. In my case, the free tier is like I exhausted the free tier. So in your case, you must or you might see a dialog box or that information section over here that free tier eligible. So then only you need to start up that service. or the instance. Okay, so if you don't see that, please don't use this one because it is even more costlier than your AWS. So obviously the very first rule is don't use either of both at the same time. So if you exhausted your AWS, you can use GCP and vice versa. Okay, so yeah, so you have much more infra over here, means simply since they are giving $300, right? So you can use much more, uh, like 2 CPUs and 4 gigs of memory you can use, which we didn't even selected in our local mission. So you can use that. And scrolling to the this one, the boot disk, right? So here, like the ISO selection is called as boot disk, and click on change. By default, it will be in Debian operating system. So you need to change that to Red Hat one. So click on this, and sorry, I need to change this Debian to Red Hat. Yeah, even Rocky Linux is there, so anything you can select. But Red Hat is the one which we'll be using. So you'll be using RHEL 8 or 9 also you can use. We'll use RHEL 8 and you must select this pay as you go. Okay, so yeah, and 20 gigs is given by default. Select that and click on select. And one major good thing about GCP is GCP doesn't need a even kitty actually. So why? Because it is having a cloud shell. So using that we can spin it. So easily you can do that. Yeah, it is starting. So is there any doubts till now? And for the people who are still can't able to pay, so please do pay. So the next session will be only for the paid candidates. It will be sent. So please do pay. Then only you can, yeah, you can get the link for the next session. Okay. So sorry, not this one. So click on buy. And yeah, so for the people who are seeing dollars, so please do reach out to the support. Okay, so yeah, that is the thing. So let me share that link as well. Yeah, this link didn't change actually. How to change from init 5 to init 3. So this one we will see in next session, Sunil. Okay, so don't worry about that. But yeah, so anyhow we'll be using putty only, means it is almost init 3 only, right? So by default in our case we install the GUI version, so that is the reason it is init 5. So again you can go back to the CLI only, means even in your VMware also it will be only command like your putty. So I'll be showing you later. Okay, so you can change that. So just need to type run level and change that. So we'll see that later, okay? Because we are running out of time. And yeah, so okay, it is started. So just select this on this IP, and yeah, you can select this connect as SSH. So if you click this, it will try to connect, and sometimes it might take some time. So you can see this transferring SSH key to the VM. Okay, just a second. So you can see whatever name which I mentioned there, it is given as a host name here. And yeah, you need not even need a kitty if your using this GCP. So this is as same as, or even you can even download file, or it is even more powerful actually than your PT or PuTTY. Okay, so this is using your browser only, this SSH, or this, sorry, the shell. Okay, so yeah, once you're done with your this instance, again do stop it, then only the cost won't be incurred. Okay, so yeah, is there any doubts till now? So it is almost 2 hours. So yeah, this course is only for RHCR or RHCE. No, Nitesh, it is only for RHCSA, not RHCE. In future, actually, we will start RHCE, but as of now, this is for the people who are non-IT, and if you're IT also, if you're going to switch internally, this will be useful actually, this course. Yeah, and I did posted the link for the payment, so please do pay. So yeah, if you want to continue the session, please do pay. And today's recording also would be sent out. It will be uploaded in the YouTube channel. And yeah, so is there any doubts, anyone, in the voting procedure? Or so why I took a lot of time to explain this one is, as a sysadmin, you must understand this. So that is the reason. Okay, so yeah. So please do reach out to me to my mail. So I'll be sending the mail in my notes as well. And let me send the drive link once again. So many do miss the drive link. So please bookmark this. So if you're not joining the session also, you can bookmark this and keep it handy. So anyhow, I'll be uploading the like anything related to Linux or anything related to the session, I'll be uploading it here. So yeah. So if there is no doubts, I think we can wind up the session. So please do make sure you're joining on next week at the same time, 6 to 8. So yeah, the link will be shared to the paid candidates only. Okay. And yeah, that's it for the day, guys. Then thanks for your time. Have a great weekend ahead. Bye-bye. So thanks all then. Bye bye. Yeah.